This is the first video in a series of videos for Word 2013 Unit B, which is entitled Editing Documents. After you watch these videos and complete this unit, you should be able to cut and paste text, copy and paste text, use the Office clipboard, find and replace text, check spelling and grammar, research information, add hyperlinks, and work with document properties. Out of the textbook, we're going to be looking at page Word 26, which is entitled Cut and Paste Text. Now, the editing features in Word allow you to move text from one location to another in a document. Now, generally when we move text, it's often called cut and paste. When you cut text, it's removed from the document and placed on the clipboard. And actually, it's placed on two clipboards, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in a different video. It's placed on both the system clipboard as well as the Office clipboard, which is really a temporary storage area for text and graphics that you cut or copy from a document. Then you can paste or insert text that is stored on the clipboard in the document at the location of the insertion point. You cut and paste text using the Cut and Paste buttons in the Clipboard group on the Home tab. You can also move selected text by dragging it to a new location using the mouse. And when you do this, this operation is what we call a drag and drop. Well, the first thing that we want to do is that we want to go ahead and go to Core Sites, and we want to download this file here, and it is the WDB1 file. And that is the file that we're going to be taking a look at and that we're going to be working with during this lesson. Now, it may pop up into a reading mode, in which it's actually going to protect it from making changes. So it may open up very similar to this, and you may see a little bar that comes across here that says that it is in a protected view on there. If it says that, you want to make sure that you click on a button that says Enable Editing on there. And then it should take you to this view right here, which is our default view, which is the print layout view. Now, generally the document will open in a print layout view once you enable the editing on there, and it takes it out of the protected view. And a lot of times it's either going to be either at 100% or 120%. And once you have opened the file, you can edit it and use the Save or Save As command to save your changes. Now, when you use the Save command, that is when you want to save the document, the changes that you made to it, and it's going to overwrite the original stored file. Now, you use the Save As command when you want to leave the original file intact or keep the file as it was, and you create a duplicate file with a different file name or file extension or in a different location. Now, we're going to use the Save As command here as well. So if we go to step 2 on page Word 26, it tells us that we want to click on the File tab. And when we click on the File tab, that's going to take us to the Backstage view. Next, it tells us that we want to click on the Save As. Then we want to make sure that the computer, and we want to click on Computer, make sure that is the one that is selected. And then we want to go down here to the Browse. And you want to put it in the location in which you are currently saving your files, which is either going to be into your My Documents or preferably on your home drives that you have. For my case, I'm going to be saving this on the desktop again. And we want to keep this on here, but we're going to give it a different file name. So we can delete out the file name that was there, the WDB-1, and we're going to name this WDB-lecture PR. And we want to make sure that we type that in the file name text box here, and then we're going to click the Save button. And what that has done is that now we can make some more changes to this press release file without affecting the original file. So the file that you downloaded is still going to be intact the way that it was. Now on step 3, it tells us that we want to replace Ron Dawson with your name. So if we take a look up here where it says Contact Ron Dawson, you want to select that and you want to replace it with your name. Then next it tells us that we want to scroll down until the headline, Bridget Schuret to speak. So we want to make sure that we are able to see this here. Of course, if this doesn't open up in 120%, you can zoom in if you'd like to on there just to get that where this would say 120%. So we want to make sure that we see this line right here, talking about Bridget and how she's going to be speaking at the QST's Travel Luncheon Series. And we want to make sure that's at the top of our document window. Once we have this, we are going to click on our Show Hide button, and that is going to turn on our formatting marks, and which that is in the paragraph group on the Home tab. And as we said, once again, that's going to display the formatting marks. Step 4 tells us that we are going to select the Alaskan Guide Gilbert Coonan, which also you need to make sure that you include the comma and the space after it in the third body paragraph. So if we count down to the third body paragraph, here's our first body paragraph, there's our second, and here's our third one. And we're going to select Alaskan Guide Gilbert Coonan, as well as the comma and the space after it. And remember, the space is represented by a little dot. Once we have that selected, we're going to click on the Cut button in the clipboard group. So once again, that's on the Home tab, and it looks like a little pair of scissors right here and says Cut. When we click on that, it is now cut that information, and that text is removed from the document, and it's placed on the clipboard. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this has actually been placed on 2 different clipboards, and that's 2 different clipboards that Word uses. The first one is the System clipboard, and that is used to hold just one item. If you would copy something from the Internet Explorer and paste it into Word, you could do that, but it mostly uses the System clipboard, which is going to hold just one item at a time. So if you would copy or cut something else, it would actually overwrite the previous one because it only can hold one item. Now, the one that we've also used in addition to the System clipboard in this case is the Office clipboard, which we're going to refer to this just as the clipboard. Now, the clipboard actually holds up to 24 items. Now, the last item you cut or copy is always added to both clipboards. Now, you might be asking, what happens if I go over 24 items on my clipboard? Well, what's going to happen is that the oldest item on your clipboard is going to be removed from the clipboard. So when you add item 25 in, item 1 is going to be deleted off of the list. So the oldest one's going to be deleted off the list and replaced with the new one. Now, if we take a look at step 5, step 5 tells us that we want to place the insertion point before African, but after the space in the first line of the third paragraph. So if we go back to our third paragraph again, and we want to put it before African, but definitely after the space, so you want it just to the right of the dot, but just to the left of the A. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to click on the Paste button right here. Now, there's 2 buttons that's up here. The top one is the Paste button. The bottom one is the Paste button as well, but it also gives you options on how you would like to paste. So for right now, we're just going to click the top part of this Paste button. And when you do that, you'll notice that the text is placed at the location of the insertion point, as you see here. Now, the Paste Options button appears below the text when you first paste it in a document. And you'll see here where it says CTRL, and that stands for Control, and that's the Paste Options. For now, we're going to ignore this, but we'll show you what that will do a little bit later on. So for now, we've got this new text inserted into our document. Next, on step 6, it tells us that we are going to press and hold the Control key, and then we're going to click on the sentence, "Ticket prices include lunch," and that's going to be in the 4th paragraph, and then we're going to release our Control key. So if we go down to the 4th paragraph, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, here's our 4th paragraph right here, we're going to press and hold our Control key, and we want to click on where it says "Ticket prices include lunch," and that's the last sentence in that paragraph. Once you click on that, you can then release your Control key, and that will select the entire sentence. Step 7 tells us that we want to press and hold the mouse button over the selected text until the pointer changes to an arrow with a little box around it. So if I click and point on this, you'll eventually notice that my mouse pointer changes, and now there's a little box at the tail of my mouse pointer. And what this is going to do is that this is going to allow me to drag my mouse pointer around, and it's actually going to give me a vertical line, which you notice this vertical line moving around as I move my mouse. And that is the insertion point. And when you drag this around, the insertion point is going to move. And where you want the text to be inserted at is where you need to position your mouse pointer at. And when you release the mouse pointer, or when you release your mouse button, it's going to move this text. So what we're going to do on step 8 is we are going to take this insertion point and we're going to drag this down to the end of the 5th paragraph, which is directly below this, and we're going to go at the very end, right after where it says events.html. But we want to make sure that it is between the period and the paragraph mark. Once we have that, we're going to release the mouse button here, and you'll now notice that the text has moved from the 4th paragraph down to the 5th paragraph at the end. Now, this is a convenient way to move text using the drag and drop method when the locations of origin and destination are both visible on the screen. So where it was at originally and where it's going, it's on the screen. That was very easy to drag that down. However, if this was multiple pages away, if this was an incredibly long document, we may actually want to go ahead and use the buttons that we did up here of cut and paste. Now, when you use the drag and drop method, one key thing to remember is that the text is not placed on the clipboard when you drag and drop it. So it's not going to be located there. Now, of course, always remember, if you make a mistake, you can always click on the undo button on the quick access toolbar and you can try again. So your document should look like this at this point in time with these few changes made here. So go ahead and click on your save button on the quick access toolbar, and that's going to complete up the steps for this video. However, just a few little things to remember on there is that using the mouse is a very common way of completing actions on Word. However, you could also use keyboard shortcuts. And when we talk about a keyboard shortcut or a shortcut key, it's ultimately is a function key, maybe such as an F1, or a combination of keys, maybe such as hitting your control key and your S key at the same time period. And that when you press those keys, it actually performs a command. Now, for an example, if you were going to, instead of using the cut, copy, and paste commands on the ribbon, so up here, you could actually use the keyboard shortcuts of Control X and Control X, that is the shortcut for cut. You can use the Control C, which is the shortcut for copy, and the Control V, which is the shortcut for paste. Now, as well, instead of clicking the little disc up here all the time, you can also press the Control S to save the changes to a document instead of having to go and move your mouse pointer all the time to click on this disc up at the top to save your document. Or even clicking on the File tab. Now, if you become skilled at using keyboard shortcuts, they can actually help you to quickly accomplish many of the tasks that you perform in Word on a regular basis. Now, if a keyboard shortcut is available for a command, it is usually listed in the screen tip for that command. So sometimes you'll have to take a look at them and they will tell you that it's on there. And for like in this example here, we could click on this, but we can also hit our control key as a keyboard shortcut to open up those paste options. Well, that concludes the information for video 1 about cutting and pasting text. In video 2, we're going to be talking about copying and pasting text. So you're ready to move on to pages Word 28 and 29 and to move on to video 2.